Yeah, this is Benny Briggs with Savage Clarity. I'm gonna do a reaction video with Jesse Lee Peterson and Charleston White. I think Charleston White gets a bad rap sometimes, but he's really profound and be dropping real knowledge. So let's get into it.
A stadium way up there in the stands trying to dictate to the players down on the field. You spinning the bullshit narrative, Mr. Peterson. Listen, you trying to spin a narrative of children join gangs, not grown adults with fully functional developed brains. No kid is saying, hey, I'm joining the gang because I'm looking for daddy. It's the attributes that the gang have available for the kid that replaces what the father don't provide in the home. So don't spin that narrative, home.
Peterson, the Father State is on Patreon. Click the Patreon link to support our work. And thank you, folks. I have with me today Charleston White. He is the founder and CEO of HYPE, which stands for Helping Young People Excel. Charleston, thanks so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, man. Charleston, what's important to you?
The future, which ultimately to me is our children. I believe our children are 100% of our future. And so that's what matters the most to me.
And why do you believe that the children are the future?
I was once a child, and I grew up because people believe what I believe, and so there was people who poured into me as a child, and so I grew up to make a difference in the future when I was a kid, right? So what I'm doing now today, I was groomed for it. I was prepared to do what I'm doing. I had people who was juvenile workers, who was youth workers, who was counselors, who was juvenile probation officers, who was teachers who deal with the troubled students at school. And so they took time to not cast me away or throw me away, but to nurture the gifts that they saw in me, to pull out the good. Even though I couldn't see it at the time, even though I didn't understand what they were doing, they were preparing me for the future, where I am today. And so I believe if we want to reshape America, I believe if we want to make America great again, we have to go back to creating strong children like we once used to do. So.
And how are you helping them? What do you do to help young people excel? What do you do?
I create youth development programs, youth engagement programs. I have anti-gang cognitive intervention programs that I've taught at alternative schools, that I teach inside the juvenile facilities. I also, at one point in time, would train the state's juvenile correctional officers who was employed with the Texas Juvenile Justice Department. And then I work with the Public Defender's Office and partner with criminal defense mitigation specialists on sometime helping young people who've committed capital murder or murder. And I come in and I help explain the mitigating factors or the mitigating circumstances that would deem this child or this young person to be given a second chance in life.
Oh, I see. What? So were you raised by both parents? Were both parents in your home growing up?
No, sir. I'm the product of what I like to call the typical traditional African American home, the single parent home, right?
Yeah.
73% of African American homes in this household are headed by single Black mothers. And so I'm the product of that, right? I'm the product of a mother who was a teenage mother, but she had the ambition, she had the wherewithal, she had the tenacity to will herself out of impoverished conditions and raise her two boys in what I would like to say the backbone of America, which is that middle class upbringing, that middle class lifestyle. So my mother landed a job at General Motors in the early 80s. Yeah. And I can vividly remember our lives changing from living in an apartment complex to having a home and me and my brother having our own rooms and living what I like to say a pretty productive life, a mother who was God-fearing, who tried to instill good morals and good values into her two boys. But back during that time, I was born.
So I want to say something. When you listen to him talk, I don't know if anyone's familiar with his character, but when you listen to him talk like this is the type of thing that we need in the community. We need to educate. We need to grow. I know a lot of times the stuff on the internet makes it look like, this guy's a clown. But if you just listen to that last 30 seconds of what he's saying, you can see that he's really coming through. Anyway, let's get back to it.
Born in 77, so the 80s, there was somewhat of a stigma to single mothers, and then there was not a lot of help for single mothers. And so my mother was the backbone of our family. My grandfather is a military guy who migrated out of East Texas to Fort Worth, Texas, by way of the Air Force. He's the oldest of 17 children. His mother is a lady by the name of Lucille Helton. She was a slave. She was the property of the White Sloan plantation. And so that's where we get our last name from. My father's name was Freddie White. He joined the Air Force, came to Fort Worth, and most of his brothers migrated to Fort Worth.
When you say that, when you say your mother was a God-fearing woman, what does that mean?
I've never seen a man come out of my mother's bedroom, and she had boyfriends. We went to church on Sundays. We was taught to pray at night before we went to bed. We was taught to pray over our food. I've never heard my mother say anything bad about my father. I've never heard my mother cuss anyone out. So what I believe, my mother taught us to fear God and fear her as well as respect her. But she tried to instill biblical principles into us at an early age in life. So as far back as I can remember in my life, we had a foundation of biblical principles.
Did you have any relationship with your father growing up?
No, sir, I didn't.
No contact at all?
My dad was in the Navy. My dad retired from the Navy and battled with mental illness. And so I probably can count on two hands how many times I've seen my father in my lifetime.
So what was it like for you not seeing him and being with him growing up? Did you yearn for him, or what was it like?
All children, especially boys and girls, yearn for their father. There's a strong desire.
Yeah.
Not having a father there, right? And your mother not having the words or the understanding or maybe the time to explain to you what it's like to not have a father, right? So most single mothers are working. I don't know what it's like to be hungry. I don't know what it's like to come home and have our lights cut off. So my mother was very financially responsible, and at some point we made it to a level of affluence. But not having your father there, as a kid, not being able to articulate it, you internalize, right? So when the parents get divorced, kids typically blame themselves. So as a kid, you have questions. Where's my dad? Why is my dad not here? You may have a neighbor. I had a Hispanic guy by the name of Brian Alaniz. Brian Alaniz had a father. So I spent the night at Brian's house. Spending the night at Brian's house gave me a dad at times, right?
Yeah.
So you get to see what a family structure looked like. Then when you go home, you have questions. You have internal thoughts. So as a kid growing up, mom working. So when I'm getting out of school, mom's going to work. You feel unloved, right? You feel rejected. Then that turns into hurt.
So for myself, I grew up with a single mother in a single mother home, and I don't remember feeling hurt or rejected because back then in the 80s, you knew your parents did what they had to do. My parents had to work, right? And it was our responsibility as kids to make sure that the homework was done, to make sure that the house was clean. I mean, I learned how to wash dishes at 7 years old, and them chores need to be done. And the love was reciprocated through, having something to eat, having a Christmas. So, I mean, even though it's a little different, I understand what he's saying. All right, back to it.
There's a pain that just simply revolves around the fact of a father being absent that this kid is feeling, right? He can't articulate it, right? No one's sitting him down and he's not going through counseling. So that's where the behavior begins to transpire, right? So you're feeling unloved, you're feeling abandoned, you're feeling rejected. That hurt begins to turn into anger. But the anger is just a smoke screen, right? You really want, so as a young man, I got all these emotions inside of me. And so when I get to school, I got the PE coach, I got the math teacher, or I got the school police officer. When he confronts me, hey, young man, you need to pull your pants up. Well, all these emotions causes me to resent him.
Yeah.
So I got this displaced anger, right? He's done nothing to me, but he's a man. He's a male authority figure, and I want him to come home with me.
Yeah.
I wish he can come home with me. So I resent you telling me what to do, trying to correct me, and you can't come home with me. So I began to hate you, and I began to despise other men, other male authority figures, mainly other black men.
So when
Right,
you when you were asked your mother, "Where is my father?" what would she say?
I never thought to ask.
You never asked at all.
I never thought to ask because what's not there, you don't know to ask that. It's normal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We come up in a generation where kids don't ask grown folk questions about grown folk things.
So I read that you ended up becoming a part of a gang when you were younger. What made you?
Go ahead.
What made you get involved with gangs? What made you get involved with them?
It was everything I was looking for. Coming from a single parent home, never been spanked by a man, never been disciplined by a man, never been corrected by a man, never been hugged by a man, never had a man say I'm proud of you, never heard a man say I love you. So the older guys in the gang gave me the affirmation that I sought to have from a father figure.
Did you know at the time you were doing it because you were looking for the love of a father?
No. You talking about a child with an undeveloped brain. They don't know what the fuck they doing. Yeah, you talking about an undeveloped brain kid. Everything that a kid does is all impulsiveness, right? Based on what they feel or what their friends are doing. I just wanted to belong. It wasn't a matter, when you're going through what you're going through as a kid, you don't know I'm doing this because dad not there.
Right.
You just know you feel something.
Yeah.
You just know you was born into a condition. You was born into a situation where your dad's not around. You don't know that's not normal. So I met a kid, go ahead. I met a kid once before here recently, and he's had both his mom and his dad.
I think that's kind of, I don't know. I know that because my dad wasn't in the house, we didn't really miss him, and the concept of single parent or single mother homes, single parent homes, because this is the information age is coming out now as if, we understood that at the time. We didn't really understand that at the time. We just knew, like Mr. White said, we just knew that we had things the way that they were, and I'm like Generation X. So we didn't complain about a whole bunch of shit. We just did what we had to do when we needed to do it. We weren't thinking about where's my dad. This was the state. I mean, and some of my friends, their fathers was there. You know what I mean? And you could tell the difference, but they were still there with us. So I like the narrative that we didn't really, uh, we weren't self aware that our fathers weren't there, And I mean, I think that, everything is subjective because there were people there with their mother, there were kids there with their mother and their fathers, and they still was pieces of shit. Anyway,
Dad. And so I asked him, hey, what's it like to have both your mom and your dad?
Yeah.
He couldn't understand what I was saying
Yeah.
because he don't know what it's like not to have them.
That's right.
So to grow up and every child you see don't have a dad, that becomes normal. It's the house with the dad that everybody say, hey man, they got a dad over there. So you don't know until you grow up and you
That's
can
what I was
look
saying.
at your life and assess your life where you can start connecting the dots. But when you're a kid, it's your environment, it's the conditions, it's your nurture, the foundation of your home life dictates what you're gonna go outside and become.
It's interesting. It's interesting in that your mother brought you out of poverty, or and bought a home. She got a job, and you and your brother ended up with your own rooms and everything. And yet, that wasn't enough for you, because I read that you decided to run away from home and go on a crime spree, which led you to murder at 14 and go to prison and all that. So it's interesting how
I've never been to prison.
I mean, jail.
Let me just say this.
To jail, right?
I went to juvenile. I went to a boys' home.
Oh, okay.
Let me just say this.
Okay.
Culture, right? Culture is way more influential, way more powerful than home life, upbringing. Let me give you an example. There was a time when black people hung from trees, and there was white people standing in the crowd saying, I don't agree with that. But they wasn't gonna speak out because culturally it was okay to hang niggas. There was a time when white people said it was okay to enslave black people, but there was a part of the people that says, no, that's not right.
Yeah.
But culture says, we're gonna do it. So you put your head down based off what you was raised. But overall, the culture influences it all, right? That's why culture is so strong and so impactful. So here I am. I'm born into a culture that goes against what my mother teaches us.
Yeah.
I'm born where my culture, I got my mom saying, you need to go to work. I got an uncle who I see on a regular basis by way of being family members. He a pimp. I got a grandfather who sell drugs. I got another uncle who sell drugs. When I look across the street, I got another neighbor. He's getting out of jail for robbery. My cousin. So when I come inside and I cut my television on, I'm born in 1977. Think about the culture then. Pimps was glorified during the black exploitation film era.
Yeah.
Superfly, the Mac. So I'm growing up watching all of this on the culture. I got a mother going to work. My culture don't show me mama going to work, but I see mama going to work. All the things that my culture present to me is negative.
Yeah.
And I have these same negative images, not just in my family, they in the community, they at my friend's house, they outside the school. So biblically, my mother says that the Bible says a son can do nothing without his father, that he can only do what he see his father does. So if there's no father around, who do you mimic, mama? So I know a lot of young boys who didn't have no uncles, didn't have no brothers, didn't have no male cousins. So they was the little boy sitting down peeing outside when we were standing up peeing. So I seen a whole lot of little boys who was mimicking mama. So they sat down and pee until they went to school.
Yeah.
So I had uncles in Mimic, right? So
And that's the thing. That's the thing. A lot of time, man, we believe that having a two-parent household will make sure that you are all right in society. But the reality is that even if you did have a two-parent home, the father was always out going to work. He was out going. He was providing. So the children during that time would always take the mother's perspective. Now, fast forward to 2024, we got all these issues with, you know, gender. We have all these issues with pronouns and politically correctness, which is off the rails now. We got what do we got? Alternative facts. You know, everything is because most of this generation now has taken the view of their mothers, and now we're like Jesse Peterson say, we're in a fallen state. Anyway, let's get back to it.
Confucius said, he who controls images controls minds. My little mind was being controlled based on me being young with a young, impressionable mind. So it's not that I went against my mother. I have a culture. You got NWA, fuck the police. So all of this is being pushed upon us as children culturally.
Yeah.
Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society. They take away the Cosby Show. They take away a different world. So culturally, man, all the negative images is being propagated to me. So I literally grew up believing that men, for one, don't work, because I never seen a man get up and go to work. I grew up believing that men went to prison and went to jail. So I aspired to be a man. How do you become a man?
Amazing.
You got to go to jail, nigga. So I want to be a man.
That's
I heard
amazing.
you saying, mama, you're a woman, but I want to be a man.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for me right now. Like and subscribe. Tune in for part 2. This is Savage. This is Benny Briggs with Savage Clarity, and I'm out.